Hello, so it's been about 2 months since I did my last update, which is when I collected my BMW C Evolution. And basically what happened is picked it up on the 20th of June. It's the 28th of August today. I took it straight home and then took it out for to go basically for a public charge to try and figure out what that was like to do. And I ended up accidentally buying the wrong cable for public charging, which meant that the bike effectively had its charging control unit fried with 11 miles on the clock. So it ended up having to go straight back to BMW, and I didn't have it for a month. I had a courtesy bike effectively. So ever since then, I've only had it back for a month now, and I've done 700 miles with it. And I just wanted to show you a little bit about the bike and also just my first impressions just having ridden it now for a month as well. So here she is, the bike. Picked it up just at the end of June, and I've managed to drive just over 700 miles with it. I ended up putting a top box on it as well, which I'll do a separate video about. And yeah, maybe just to give you a little bit of an overview of the bike itself, but it is pretty massive. A little bit bigger than my old Honda Silverwing. 275 kilos. It looks really good, I kind of think. Comes with the smaller windscreen. It's got built-in indicator lights here. And generally speaking, the newer edition, which came out a couple of months ago, has the grey panels instead of the white panels, as you can see here. Ended up putting my old top box on there and just trying to match it with some reflective tape effectively, just to make it stand out a little bit more. But at the moment, the way I use it is as a daily commuter bike, basically into work, which is around about 8 miles each way, and right into central London. And I'll show you just the startup of the screen effectively, but it's really nice. Shows you just on the right side here just the percentage of how full the battery is, the estimated mileage, and that's on dynamic mode, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a second. And the green is reflective of the percentage that you have left in the battery. And these are just the miles that I did today, and this is just the amount of kilowatts that is currently being used up whilst we're just stood here. And the way you start it up basically is very similar to a traditional bike. You put in the brake, and then you press the red button on the right there, and then the screen lights up a little bit more. You can see just the slight increasing current at the moment. And you've got effectively a bunch of switches here, bunch of switches here, and it's this this mode button over there. When pressed, it changes the riding style, and there are 4 styles. Eco Pro, and you can see that has the highest range, usually estimated range, because it has the highest bit of regenerative braking, but it limits the amount of power that you can use effectively. If I then go on to the next one, which is Road, where you have all of the power available but limited regenerative braking. It's quite good for riding 2-up. Sail, you've got all the power and absolutely no regenerative braking, so if you kind of want to get a traditional bike feel, so where you don't have a natural or a traditional scooter feel, where you don't really have that much of a braking from the engine, for instance, this is the mode to go. And then finally the dynamic mode, and dynamic is the most dynamic of all, where you get all of the power available as well as a high level of regenerative braking. I generally tend to drive it dynamic when I'm just on my own and want to have a sporty drive. If I want to maximize the range, I'll go into Eco just to get a few more miles. And I usually don't need that much more power, for instance, but I really do enjoy having the regenerative braking there. And when my wife's on the back, I end up riding it quite a bit in the road setting, just because the regenerative braking can be a little harsh for someone on the back, and this way you still get all the power, but a little bit more of a comfy ride when slowing down. Now, what else have we got? In my case, I've got heated handlebars, which is quite helpful, and on the left hand side you've got a button here for the hazard lights, which I never had on my previous bike, so quite cool. As well as you can basically have different light settings. So when I press this button here, now it'll just go into daytime running light mode. It's a bit hard to see perhaps with the sun out, but that is at full beam effectively, this the middle light. And when I press that again, that goes off basically, and you have one of the lights just on the left hand side there that you can see, which is just your normal low beam effectively. So I generally tend to ride it with the DRL, daytime running light, at its brightest. I think that looks the best. Now what's really cool about this is that when you press the R here, you basically have a reverse button as well, and it's really helpful because it's a 275 kilo scooter, and just pushing that back is actually very helpful, particularly if you've got someone on the back as well. So that's one of the things I've really loved about having this bike actually, is this feature here. Here you've just got your general kind of left indicators and right indicators and cancellations. You've got the horn here, which it's quite a loud horn, I'll be honest, I won't press it. And basically here you've got the menu, so I'll press info first. And one of the criticisms I probably would have is that you have an awful lot of settings in this menu, and you've got to scroll through so many of them, and you do really have to learn the manual to understand what each one of them means. As you can kind of see here, that's the level of the 12-volt battery at the moment. That's one of the timers, so how much the bike's been on for. I think this is how much the bike's been ridden for. The temperature today, which is super hot, as you can see. The time, the date, the average miles per hour that I've driven since owning it for the last 740 odd miles. Now this one's interesting, so the average miles per kilowatt hour. Now my understanding with the C Evolution, well, just seeing here, is that so far, and I haven't driven it particularly lightly, I get 8.2 miles per kilowatt hour, and versus a Tesla is usually between 2.5 to 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour, and a Nissan Leaf will typically do between 3 and 4.5 miles per kilowatt hour. So it is very economical, even compared to other electric vehicles when you compare it this way. There's a few other things. So this is the amount of current it's currently using up. If I put the accelerator on, oh, I don't think it's actually the current that I'm thinking of. I'm going to ignore that one for now. That's actually the amount of kilowatts that have been put into the battery since I've owned it, so almost 100 kilowatts. And this is the amount, do you know what, I actually don't know off the top of my head. I think it's the amount that's been put into the battery in the last, no, it can't be in the last charge. As you can tell, like, it's pretty confusing. I think the icons don't really give away what the information's really trying to tell you. So yeah, again, I don't exactly understand this one either. And this is just your driving style. It's only ever been on 2 bars. I've kind of tried driving in different styles, but haven't really managed to make a change versus those 2 Leafs, perhaps those 2 bars on that economical driving kind of measurement. This is the total volts in the main battery at the moment, and we're back kind of on the 12-volt battery health at the moment. Now what's really nice actually is that you do get the feeling of it is a massive scooter, and it is quite wide, but what is quite helpful is that you can completely tuck these in quite far, which is helpful. Same for the other side, and generally speaking, it's just a fantastic drive. Like, the suspension on this bike, I must admit, it's a little firm, but it's actually it's much better than my Honda Silverwing was. Even though it is a little on the firm side, it means the riding that you do on it is brilliant. And I must admit, like, just having owned it now for the best part of well, 2 months, 1 month of riding it, it is an outstanding drive. It corners really well, and I've super enjoyed kind of having it effectively. There are a few things I'll just show you just around the bike, but at the moment in here, what you can see there is the Type 1 plug used to charge the bike, and you basically can do that with 2 different cables. One is a wall charger, and the other is a Type 2 cable that you can use for public charging stations. Then on the right hand side you've got, quite nicely actually, a cubby hole. And then actually, you'll see it by my hand, but you can go quite deep into that. And basically what I've got is, I've got a, I forget what this is called, I could put a link in the description, but it is basically kind of the equivalent of a cigarette lighter here that you can put in a tiny little socket just on the left here. It's a bit hard to probably see, but it's just in there. And when you put that in there, you basically get 2 USB ports, which is what I end up using because I've got a RAM mount for my iPhone 6, and basically that is what I end up mounting my phone with. So I'm not really reliant on anything on the screen, which it doesn't have a navigation anyway. But what this does is basically the cable gets routed through to the USB port, and it means I can use things like Waze and Google Maps and anything else that I might need. And what I'll do is I'll do a proper write-up on this little setup as well. But so that, even though you might think like, oh, do you know what, that's quite a bit of space in there. If you're looking to carry on the charging cable, that is where it would fit, and it really does take up all of the space effectively. Now, what's probably not so easy to see is that everything from here all the way through to the front there, that is basically all batteries, and there's very little storage space. So you basically, what you get is one underseat storage cupboard, and all it fits is one full face helmet, and it does fit that really well, but you cannot fit anything else in there whatsoever, and hence why I kind of bought the rack to fit my old top box on there. I was quite lucky, my old top box was black already, so it kind of fitted the bike. But this is the Givi E55, and that fits 2 full-size helmets in quite nicely. So for my wife and I, who are used to quite a bit of space in the bikes, it's been really helpful to be able to carry stuff. And I'll just show you a little bit more around the bike. Now, what is really nice is I almost, particularly in eco mode and dynamic mode, even though it has 2 massive disc brakes, I never ever use it almost. Only in road mode and sail mode do I really touch the brakes. And I can imagine that I'll probably never have to change the brake pads on these, let alone the discs themselves. A couple of other things, you've got some foot pegs here just for the passenger, which is easy enough to use and get on. And what else have we got? Got some nice indicator lights here. I was a little bit worried about maybe these bumping into bikes next to mine, particularly in London, where yeah, people do knock into things a little bit more. And that's the bike in essence. So far, really happy with it. Maybe just to show you, but that there is where the motor is based at the moment. And what I'll do is I'll do a separate video just on cables and charging times and a number of other things, as well as a little bit of an overview of the Givi top box. But hopefully this just gives you a little bit of a view of my C Evolution, kind of a full month of riding in. Thanks.